Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to DreamWorks Switch to Life. And in today's video, we are going to be reviewing Harvey Girls Forever, which was originally known as Harvey Street Kids back in season 1. Now, I literally just finished rewatching the TV show yesterday, and unfortunately, I really hate to say this, I couldn't actually make this review come out sooner. I wanted to because today marks the day that Harvey Girls Forever is gone from Netflix. Yeah, apparently the licensing deal with DreamWorks is donezo, so now the only way you can watch this show is to actually buy it off of something like Amazon or Vudu or Apple TV, I don't know. But the thing is, I really wanted to make this review back when the show was still on Netflix. Unfortunately, I had to rewatch the series to get a gist of it, and then combine that with just life. Even though this was my top YouTube priority, I just couldn't do it in time. So unfortunately, I'm posting this the day that the show disappears on Netflix. Sadly, that means that unless you're willing to pay a lot of money, I can't actually convince you to go and watch this show. But if you want, stick around for the review. Now, let me just say that despite the name Harvey Girls Forever, this isn't actually a girls' show. I mean, yes, it is a show that focuses on girls, but the thing is, it's not like a girly show. It actually feels like it's a show just meant for kids in general, and that's really good. Not only is this series extremely funny because, well, it has a lot of jokes that just hit very well, but it also has a lot of gross out humor, especially from the Bloogie Boys, who are actually rivals to the Harvey Girls. We also have the animation, which I will admit, I love the character designs. They just are so unique, and there's really not a single character that you can forget. However, I do need to point out that sometimes the animation can be a bit stiff. In fact, sometimes I thought that my computer was glitching when I was recording this, but no, that's actually the way the show was animated. Sometimes the characters just no clip. But the animation is still extremely colorful and definitely eye-catching for children. One of the biggest jokes is that they have a pink sky instead of a blue sky. But again, that doesn't really interfere with the series. Though I will admit, one piece of humor that I loved is whenever the characters would break the fourth wall, like briefly mentioning a previous episode of their lives, or taking a couple of seasons to do something, and I love how expressive the characters are, especially when they try to act cute or sad, and then there's also the times that they get mad. And I will admit that while the series is mostly focused on humor and definitely takes a dramatic approach when it comes to emotion, emotion is there and it actually feels genuine. And there's also the fact that you can get to see inside of the Harvey girls' heads and what's going on in their thought processes. However, I do have one critique for this show. The show is literally focused exclusively on children. I mean, there are a couple of teenage boy band members who show up in a few episodes, and there's this stuntman named Blaze Trickle who also shows up in a few episodes after watching a couple of movies starring him. But for the most part, all of the characters are children. We don't even get to see where their parents are, and that's another fourth wall break. But what really irks me is that even though most of the characters in this series are kids, not a single one of them is actually played by a kid. They're voiced by an adult, which I will admit does make for some incredibly funny line deliveries, but again, it just loses that authenticity. Then again, it's still super funny, so there's that. Also, speaking of boy bands, we should probably talk about the music for this series. Honestly, I love the background music. It was really cool, catchy, and I just can't help singing it because it's actually the theme song of the show, which is, again, super catchy. But then you get to, like, songs that are actually sung by the characters, and even the boy band songs aren't that great, which is very disappointing. But with all of that in mind, now it's time to dive into the story. Well, maybe not the story so much as the characters. First, we have our Harvey girls, which includes Audrey, who is this tomboy who was oftentimes doing radical stunts. I'm pretty sure that she is dumb. Well, I wouldn't really say dumb. She just doesn't have a safety instinct in her body. She's constantly doing reckless things just because it's cool and awesome, which I really loved. Then, of course, there's Dot, who is the more science-y person of the team, and she's also the fashion trendsetter. And I really like her because even though she does try to be smart and collected, she still knows how to bring a lot of fun to the dynamic. And then there's Lotta, who is the single nicest person that you will ever meet. She is nice to pretty much everybody, unless, of course, you're mean to animals, especially her bun-buns, in which case, be prepared for Hulk Lotta! Now, the Harvey girls are basically the heroes of the block, not only because they're saving the kids from some dangerous situations like raccoons that are attacking, or just hijinks in general, and of course, saving the day from being boring, which is by bringing the fun. They do that all the time, and it makes them heroes, which leads them to having a stalker named Lucretia. Lucretia is obsessed with the Harvey girls, and she constantly follows them around. However, during the middle of season 1, they actually get to hang out, and they actually become very close friends with Lucretia, which I really loved. It turns from a creepy stalker relationship into that one obsessed friend who doesn't understand personal space but is willing to back off if you ask nicely. Another close friend that they have is Tiny. Yes, that is actually his name, and he is also super tiny.
You're no smaller than the other first graders.
I'm in 3rd grade.
Oh.
Apparently, back when Lotta was young, she was known as Little Lotta. Then Lotta hit a growth spurt and became Big Lotta and became a brute of a girl, while Tiny was sadly left behind. And throughout the series, they constantly make fun of his height and jokes. Though in season 4, he learns to accept it and eventually uses his tininess to have fun in ways he never imagined possible. However, I will admit that Tiny's size is one thing that's always an animation error because it's always fluctuating. Sometimes he's the size of a normal short kid, and other times he's able to fit inside of a blueberry muffin basket, which you gotta be extremely small for that. But of course, just like how there are 3 Harvey girls to save the day, there are 3 Bloogie boys to ruin it. I wouldn't exactly say they're bullies, they're actually good friends with the Harvey girls. They're just obsessed with farts, boogers, and pranking, especially their leader, Melvin, who is the king of farts. And then there's Pink Eye, who is the king of boogers, and, well, as his name suggests, Pink Eye has an infection in his eye that causes it to be swollen pretty much all the time. So, it's very gross when that comes out, but, hey, it's just part of his character. And then there's Fredo, who is obsessed with fantasy, and especially with playing board games and keeping things canon when he does live-action roleplay, which I really loved because it kind of makes him a bit relatable. Someone who's so stubborn in his ways that he's not willing to change until it's absolutely necessary, but he still manages to have fun with the people around him, which I really loved. A couple of other characters is Frou Frou, who is your typical rich, snobby girl who is obsessed with looking at mirrors. Yeah, she's just mean to pretty much everybody, and because of it, she kind of wants a friend, but then after trying to get one, she realizes it's too much work and decides to be a loner. And finally, our weirdest character of all is the Beau. Now, I'm pretty sure that she's human. I could be wrong, though, because she does some crazy whack-a-mole things that defy defy the laws of physics. Now, there's this one episode where Audrey tries to uncover the mystery of the bow and discovers that she's probably a government experiment that was created to protect the Earth from interdimensional threats. And, well, at the end of the episode, the bow reveals that it was just a prank to teach Audrey a lesson, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's actually the case in real life. In a later episode of season 1, we also meet Gerald, who moved in from Ostland and since then has become a bit of a crush for Lotta, and eventually they turn it into a like-like relationship where they hold hands, but it doesn't go anywhere from there because, you know, they're just kids, so. And throughout the series, all of the Harvey kids get into trouble. And early on, they try to sort this out by asking Bobby the Elder, who is a kid who's probably only a year older than them, even though in actuality, he is a terrible elder. He has no respect for people or their emotions, and he constantly chooses whoever is actually nice to him by, you know, bribing him with stuff. So there's that. Now, there's actually a few of their animal friends that they get along with, like Susie the raccoon, who stole Audrey's slide whistle as a kid. Then, of course, there's Audrey's pet fish, Bruce, who Audrey takes absolutely no care of. She says she loves Bruce, but then she leaves him in dangerous situations, which eventually they solve by taking Bruce to live out his life in a pond. Especially with the help of a skunk named Billy, who is actually obsessed with Dot. He has a major crush on her since the day that she tied a balloon to his tail and let him float around in the sky, kind of like a bird. And since then, he's always had that balloon tied to his tail. And eventually, he overcomes his crush in the series finale, but still. And now it's time that we dive into the actual story. So in season 1, we get to meet the girls, we learn about their lives, how they met up with each other, and then we just see a bunch of fun adventures where the kids hang out and play together and learn life lessons. But then in the season 1 finale, they're playing Harvey Kickball, which is a super complicated game that I don't understand the rules for, but I do know that it's super long and goes on forever because they need a team to get 1,000 points to win. And, well, it goes on for the course of the series, which, if you want to know, takes place over the course of a year, from the summer of 2018 to the fall of 2019. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that during all that time, the Harvey kids never go to school. I mean, they mention school, they mention stuff like they have homework, or like it's in summer, so there is no homework, but we never actually see them go to school, because I'm pretty sure, again, it's just supposed to be a bunch of kids playing around. Speaking of, in the season finale, they're playing Harvey Kickball when all of a sudden they notice that the statue of the Harvey Street founder, Harvey E. Harvison, is missing his hand. So they try to go around looking for clues to stop an attack, and eventually realize the attack was a ploy set up by a bunch of teenagers called the Banana Bunch, a group of cheerleaders who are led by none other than Audrey's older sister, Zoe. And Zoe is extremely mean to Audrey. In fact, she makes it her personal mission in life to make Audrey's life a living heck. So throughout season 2, while the Harvey girls are still having fun with the other Harvey kids, there are plenty of episodes where they have to deal with the Banana Bunch being bullies to them. So like I said, we have Zoe, then we also have Maria, who is actually Melvin's older sister, and I'm pretty sure that that makes Audrey and Melvin the only kids who actually have siblings on the block. Now, Maria often speaks in sarcasm, trying to belittle everyone around her, especially her younger brother. But she also doesn't really have a care in the world. She just likes to use sarcasm to mess with people. Then we have Stu, the final member, and he's not really related to anyone, but he's still part of the Banana Bunch. He's this really cool kid with a really nice boy band aesthetic look, but unfortunately, he's still a bit of a bully.
Stu once tried to give me a wedgie, but it went wrong. Worn a cape ever since.
He's also extremely dumb, to the point where sometimes it seems like he has short-term memory loss because he keeps asking the same questions over and over in some scenes. But anyway, while the Harvey girls deal with them throughout the series, they're mostly a problem in season 2. Then, in the season 2 finale, the Harvey kids are playing this online game, and when they win, they get a free tablet, which is actually a robot named Irona. So a bunch of Ironas are going around trying to measure kids' happiness, and when kids have this really cool childlike euphoria, the robots force the kids to repeat the act over and over and over again. And, well, that's when it's revealed that the Irona tablets were built by none other than Richie Rich. And, well, after solving the problem at the start of season 3, Richie reveals the only reason he sent the tablets was so that he could learn about childhood. See, Richie was this child prodigy. He somehow started a bunch of businesses that became so successful, he is now the richest kid in the world, probably a billionaire with almost unlimited resources. And, well, unfortunately, he never got around to experiencing childhood, and now he wants to with the help of the Harvey girls, because apparently Harvey Street, after people played his game worldwide, was voted the happiest place to experience childhood. So throughout season 3 and 4, Richie becomes an honorary Harvey girl, and they go on a bunch of adventures using his unlimited resources, some of which seem magical and implausible, and other times they just have normal average day adventures that you would as a kid, as the Harvey girls teach him about childhood, which I kind of loved. But yeah, just like how Richie seems to bring a lot of money to the team, in seasons 3 and 4, it seems like the studio had a bigger budget with the animation, because they could go to new locations, not just Harvey Street. For instance, they went to conventions, they opened restaurants and other businesses, and plenty of other stuff that happened. One of which even includes Richie buying the exclusive rights to the Hornicorns franchise, so he not only produced a movie for them, but using genetic engineering and Lotta's own imagination, he created a Hornicorn theme park with real-life Hornicorns created just from the cartoon that the kids watch, which is kind of weird and possibly illegal, but cartoon logic? Speaking of genetic experiments, at one point, Richie tried to create the world's cutest animal by combining the cutest attributes from every single animal on Earth, and eventually created Dollar, the probably 70% dog, 30% other animals with really cool features.
Come on, pup. I knew I shouldn't have given him frog DNA. Or chameleon.
But then he actually saw Dollar, saw him, he was super cute, and decided that Dollar should not be mass marketed, and instead took him on as his own pet. In quite a few episodes, we see the relationship between Richie and Dollar, and, you know, it's a normal owner-dog dynamic, which I absolutely loved. It's built off of love, which makes up for the fact that Dollar was created illegally genetically, so there's that. At one point, he was actually going to be named Cheese because of Richie's favorite thing in the world. Yeah, Richie is obsessed with cheese. That's very weird, but we all got our food choices. During the season 3 finale, the girls try to get Richie to experience an onslaught of emotions. You know, that childlike euphoria that you get when you're super excited, that you're so happy you cry tears. And, well, when Richie experiences this, he becomes so emotionally devastated that he runs away. So season 4 begins with them tracking him down and calming him. And then they just go back to having normal, expensive adventures. Though at one point, they actually do meet Casper the Friendly Ghost, which was super funny, not only because, you know, it's Casper, so it's like its own franchise separate from the Harvey girls. So, crossover. But then also in this series, Casper has the same animation facial rig as Richie. And throughout the episode, Richie is just like, I swear I've seen you before. Speaking of crossovers, while they're only cameos, there's a couple of references to some other DreamWorks properties, including Spirit actually being in a crossover episode of the Hornicorns, and also the Boss Baby appearing with a baby picture of Richie Rich. So both of them were child prodigies. I'm pretty sure this means that Richie was once part of Baby Corp and eventually decided to retire and get a family. Now, this series actually is split up into 52 22-minute episodes, most of which are split up into 11-minute segments. However, quite a few of them are still 22-minute segments. And during the last 3 segments of the show, which is episodes 51 and 52, we get a few finales. We see Lucretia writing her fan fiction, and eventually she has to bring it to an end, giving her characters closure, which I really loved. Then, after Zoe and Audrey get trapped in Audrey's room and take a trip down memory lane, the two of them actually reconcile, and eventually the Banana Bunch and Harvey girls just become friends. They're no longer enemies and rivals. And finally, in the series finale, Richie crosses off the last item on his childhood bucket list at the start of the episode, because the episode continues by revealing that Lotta is moving away from Harvey Street. So that's a very emotional episode, and kids, they have no idea how to deal with those emotions, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the show. And throughout the episode, they just try to go on some fun adventures and keep each other happy. They try to finish Lotta's Harvey Street bucket list, and on that list, one of the items is finish a game of Harvey Kickball, which, like I said, goes on forever. They've been playing the game for years on end, and I do mean years. And finally, for the first time ever, someone wins the game. But after finishing the checklist, Dot and Audrey get into a fight over how else they can keep Lotta happy. And Lotta realizes that when she's gone, nobody's going to be able to calm down any riots that start on Harvey Street. So she goes out and tries to find a replacement for her, and eventually Lucretia gets the job. But Audrey and Dot, who have been bottling up their emotions, and Lotta, who's also been bottling up her own, their emotions just come pouring out, and they just have no idea how to deal with it. Eventually, Dot and Audrey realize it's time to say goodbye, so they write a song, and all of the Harvey kids perform it for Lotta, and the song just takes them down memory lane to all of the past adventures that they've been having in the previous episode. There's a lot of really cool references in that song. But eventually it's revealed that Richie, being, a rich billionaire, he has a sky mansion that they use throughout the seasons 3 and 4. And he reveals that Lotta's new address is only a 20-minute flight away from Harvey Street. So they can still visit each other, which I really loved. But one thing I loved even more was that throughout the series, they constantly made jokes about the parents, like how it seems the kids live alone. There's no adults around in the show. And eventually, they just reveal that they do in fact have parents. Just they're usually gone at work or just sitting at home while the kids are outside enjoying the sun. I guess in this Harvey universe, you don't have to worry about childhood safety, so there's that. But anyway, that's it for this series. All in all, it's a series of fun adventures with unforgettable characters that get into some really cool hijinks and also learn some life lessons. But my personal favorite part is that the jokes are actually landing, and the emotional aspect of this series, you can tell the kids get emotional in a lot of situations. But kids, they can't really handle emotions, and that's probably the best part of this series. Combine it with the colorful, even if it's stiff, animation, and you get a really cool series that I am honestly sad to see go from Netflix. It's really cool. It's a show that, even though the name suggests it's only a girl show, it's meant for everyone, all genders, all ages, and I just absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, it's gone from Netflix, so if you want, be sure to go and buy it, and if you don't, hopefully you enjoyed it while you could. But with all of that in mind, thank you guys so much for watching my video. And if you want, be sure to leave your thoughts about the series down below in the comment section. And also, who is your favorite of the Harvey kids? My personal favorite character is either the Beau because she's just so mysterious and wacky, but maybe also Audrey because she's a super funny daredevil who just makes up her own words like, I don't know, Audrey is just totally radicalicious. But if you really want to help support the channel, be sure to join my membership program by clicking the join button down below, or you can just do the free option and subscribe. But above all else, make sure that you're staying safe out there, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.
Oh no! Curse you, Harvey girl! Actually, can you hit me with a few more?